I've been alive long enough to have grown up alongside video games. In fact, I was born the same year as Super Mario Bros. Was released, coming into this world during the third generation of home consoles. In that time, games have progressed from simple input games that track high scores being the original form of PvP in games, and evolved into other things. In 1993, the first ever FPS, at least in a format that we'd recognize, was created and released, Doom. Now, 𝙋𝙬 and 𝙋𝙄𝙓𝙀𝙇 were technically the first FPSs, but in a much looser way than Doom, which actually defined that genre. Doom's existence would create a new path for games, and eventually spawn the wildly popular Call of Duties, Counter-Strike, and games like the Battlefield series. What I'm getting at here is games would often have a further-reaching impact after their launch, more so if they were successful. There's a reason Stardew Valley's success has spawned a new generation of farming sims, or how the Dark Souls game's unique mechanics and difficulty spawned the now immensely popular Souls-like genre. With all this in mind, I want to talk to you about why I think 1998 is the greatest year in video gaming history. Hello everyone, Ben here from Pixel Portable. I hope you're well. Firstly, I thought I should just clarify what I mean by best, because, it's a highly subjective word. Best in this case means the year in which the widest array of immensely popular and genre-defining games were released, all within the same year. In 1998, I was 13 years old, living in a sleepy port town in the east coast of the UK, and 1 year before my life would get entirely enveloped in the 1999 Pokémania craze, which would change my life's direction immensely, but that's for another video. Here was the shape of the console wars to understand what was going on in 1998. Winning the war by a landslide was Sony PlayStation, which at this point had a combined 22,500,000 units worldwide sold. And in second place, something rather interesting, when I was researching this, I hadn't realized that this was second place in 1998. In second place was the Nintendo Game Boy. That's right, the Game Boy. Just below the Sony PlayStation. With 12,900,000 units sold worldwide, mostly fueled by Japan, because they were in the middle of their initial boom of Pokémania, which was just about to hit the West. And in third place was the Nintendo 64, with a combined 7,860,000 units sold. Now, I hear you shouting at your screen right now. I can see you. What about our treasured boy, the Sega Saturn?
You are approaching Saturn. You are only seconds away. I have arranged for you to meet my companion. He will lead you. Watch and listen. Please, don't disappoint him. He doesn't like that.
Well, sadly, the world wasn't ready for such beauty, and it was 7th in the console wars list at this point, with a miserable 205,000 units sold worldwide. But just because PlayStation was top of the food chain, it didn't mean that PlayStation games were going to be overwhelmingly dominant in the list of the defining games of the year of 1998. In fact, this defining list comes from across all the consoles. Here is a list of some of the main games released in 1998 worldwide, and see what you think to this lineup. And the more games that you recognize, the more you'll realize how much of a banger 1998 was. Prepare yourself. This list of absolute bangers released in 1998, and it's about to blow your face off. Roll the montage.
Pixel.
See what I mean? It's crazy, right? From Ocarina of Time getting its legendary status, and to this day still remaining Metacritic's highest rated game of all time, all the way to Dance Dance Revolution that would start and spawn another part of my life that was going to have to be another video entirely, where rhythm games hit the arcades and also your PlayStations, and that changed a lot of things too. As you can see from this list, there are so many games that not only changed the path of gaming history, but also set some pretty impressive standards of gaming that are still held up today, and you can tell that by just looking at the secondary market prices for some of these things, because they're insane. Half-Life perfected the FPS adventure genre with its PC title. Metal Gear Solid gave us one of the most polished and stealth-focused action movie-type games to have ever existed. Street Fighter Alpha 3 is still played in a competitive scene even today. Also, we can't just overlook how good that soundtrack is. Xenogears is a beloved JRPG by all that have played it. And Baldur's Gate, well, if you've been paying attention to recent gaming, you'll see how immensely popular Baldur's Gate 3 is right now. Panzer Dragoon Saga is wildly respected as one of the best games for the Sega Saturn, especially if you're into JRPGs. And it reflects that in its price tag. It's pretty crazy. It's also one of my favorite games of all time, so this had a special impact on me. Pokemon Yellow was filling the gap before Gold and Silver would be released in Japan, and that's fueling the sales for the Game Boy, which is also now the second highest selling console at this time. Sonic Adventure is, if you speak to any Sonic fan, Sonic Adventure is usually the gold standard of Sonic games. It's not something I'm as attached to as some of the, the real fan base. But yeah, even I'll have to admit, Sonic Adventure is a great game, great soundtrack as well. Radiant Silvergun is beloved by all that love top-down shooters, and it's another one of those games that's astronomical on the secondary market, so don't buy that. StarCraft still has an esports scene, but also sort of paved the way to create big budget esporting events in general from Korea. StarCraft was where that began. StarCraft was where esports got big. Resident Evil 2 took the horror vibe of Resident Evil 1 and turned it into a more cinematic movie adventure. And for many fans, including myself, it's one of their favorites. Rightly so, it's a great game. Not too long ago had a really, really good remake. And this list just goes on. There's just no denying that 1998 was an insane year for gaming. And it set the stage for so much more that we enjoy today. That year was jam-packed, full with games, but unlike today where you have to sift through the ocean of games to find a few that might be worth our time, in 1998 you simply didn't have enough time, or money usually, to actually play all of these games the year that they were released. What about consoles in general? You may be thinking, okay, well, maybe it was a great year for gaming, but what was it like for consoles? Well, 1998 was actually the year that saw the end of the 5th generation of home consoles and the beginning of the 6th generation, the 128-bit era, which started in November 1998 with the release of the Sega Dreamcast.
Come on then, right.
Play Sonic Adventure together on Dreamcast. Up to 6 billion players.
The 5th generation went out with a hell of a bang. 1999 would be an insanely influential year, culturally speaking, as a whole, because it was the release of Pokemon and it saw Pokemania. Whether you liked Pokemon or not, you were part of Pokemania. But 1998 was something else. 1998 was something special, because 1998, put simply, was the greatest year of gaming. Thanks for watching.